So I'm Andy Jones, I'm Head of Product at Local Heroes, which is an on-demand service for home repair and improvement. I helped set it up from scratch about a year and a half ago, and we just about reached the national level. I've been doing product for about 20 years on a whole bunch of things, from whole phones, application processors, and more recently I've been working on music recognition for Shazam, including Shazam for TV, so you can Shazam TV shows, and the Black Cat app Halo, and search services for Yahoo. Quite a while back now. I started off life as an engineer, and I used to work on industrial power tools. I designed them from scratch, 3D, machine the parts, build a prototype. And I spent a year developing a tool that no one wanted, which was a bit heartbreaking. And again, these things were used on assembly lines for Land Rover, Sanusi washing machines, Gagio coffee machines. And it turned out the product guy hadn't spoken to many users, hadn't benchmarked the competition, and as such he spec'd something that no one wanted. And I thought, yeah, if I step into that role, I can talk to the users, benchmark the competition, and write a spec for a product that people would want and buy. Beyond the power tools, I probably spent 3 years doing that, traveling the world doing industrial power tool specs, electronic, pneumatic, electric, and the principles of product are the same. Who's the customer? What's the problem? What are the alternatives? I'd always been into tech and laptops and PCs, and I had a PC since I was about 8 or 9 years old. Loved coding, did Visual Basic, and so I went into desktop software for Vizio, and it was bought by Microsoft, big company, not for me, so it was time to move on to the next thing. But I've found every 2 or 3 years, it's not necessarily the category. It could be green tech, it could be software, it could be consumer. It's more a problem worth solving that gets my attention and I could really feel passionate about and want to work on. I'd say the biggest thing is it's hard to build stuff, so make sure it's something worth building. First off, I think setting up Local Heroes, which was a year and a half ago, we spent a minimum of 3 or 4 weeks solid with at least 20 plus users with prototypes, and it's checking what problem we're solving, who for, and what are the alternatives. Next to that, you get a good view on what people are looking for, and then I get in to build something quick, keep it simple, get it in market. Because what we found is what people say and what they do are completely different things, so having a live product's really helpful. Data's an interesting one. I think over the last few years everyone says, are you data driven? I think data's important to make informed decisions, but it should be enough data to make a decision, not so much you're paralysed. I remember discussions over the last year or so where, for example, if the house is on fire, you leave, you don't need to take the temperature. So you just need enough data to make the right decision, and testing doesn't come for free. So I've always done A/B testing, multivariate testing, but I don't need to test everything. If it's a fairly simple change and likely to be positive, you don't need to test it. If it's novel or could be potentially a big plus or a big negative, then that's worth instrumenting and testing. So I think it's important you don't have to measure everything and just have enough data to make an informed decision. I think there's 2 or 3 parts to that. After we had a live product in market, we did a few things. One was the user testing never stops. Every 2 weeks we'd be testing the users, saying, here's the next feature, what can we add, what can we remove. Also we did screen capture, because it's a web-based service. We used Mouseflow, Lucky Orange. You can actually capture live sessions and you can see what people are actually doing. They go through a flow. Some parts are simple. When you see a pattern, like people are stopping here, it gives you an idea about pain points or issues that need addressing, so that was really useful. And in-app surveys, where you can pop 1 or 2 questions and say, we're thinking of doing this, thumbs up, thumbs down, so you quickly get direction on love this, hate that, feeling different. So that was a third mechanic for helping to decide what to do next. So our steady state testing now is once a month, a whole day. We've got 2 sides to the app. One's the homeowner, one's the trader. And we get 6 people in, our target demographic. We've got a room set up, we record the session, and there's always new topics. And it's face-to-face. The product guy for each part of the business does the user test, and it's quite hard work. So really valuable, but to actually come up with the stimulus, the prototypes, to come up with the questions and to write up the notes afterwards, it's quite tough. But that's our format for user testing. You have to be cautious as well not to influence it, so there is a technique to user testing, but I'm a big believer in the product person that owns the product doing, or at least being involved in asking the questions and interacting with the users. In terms of looking at new roles, there's lots of opportunity for product, especially in London, lots of startups, lots of tech. Some of the key questions for me are, because going for interviews is quite tough and you shouldn't turn up unless you're prepped. So in terms of a new role for me, it would be, is it a problem worth solving? When you look at it thinking, yeah, that's a worthwhile thing to work on. Next up, it would be, is it something I'm proud of? If you meet someone and say, what do you do? I'm used to be able to show them, I do this, and even better if they've heard about it because it's the best in its space. And I think the third thing is, do I like the people? If you're with like-minded people, it's a good buzz, it's not work, and you just click. So I think they'd be the main components. A problem worth solving, something I could be proud of, and working with a great bunch of people that have a similar mindset. I'd say the best vehicle for communication is a prototype. Over the years, I've experimented with describing stuff, using PowerPoint, sketching. You can't beat a prototype. They're easy to build, Flinto, InVision, on a phone, on a tablet. You get the emotional engagement. So that was a great piece of advice. Whether it's a stakeholder, whether it's an end user, the prototype's the way to go. That's the product. I think for my teams, you've got some core skills or obsessions like know the customer. Whenever the team wants to know what the customer want or value most, you should know because you spent so much time with them. Know the competition because they're the alternatives you're trying to beat. Empathy. When I meet product people, it's, do they have empathy? What's it like to get inside the user? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? So for example, if you go for a cup of coffee, you're thinking this is a cool place, independent coffee shop. It's what makes it cool. So first it's the empathy, and then it's the 500 things. The height of the table, the paper used for the cup, the music. So there's some important sort of product skills. And I think in terms of values, it would be opinion. Everyone's got to have an opinion. If you don't have an opinion, you don't care and you're doing the wrong thing. That's different to decision. Decisions made by whoever's best placed, the domain expert, to make the decision based on listening. And I think finally, maybe respectful challenge is something I've been pushing, whereby if you've got an opinion, you should care and you should say there's a better way, but it's important to do it in a respectful way, just to retain influence and get your point across. If it's too emotive, it gets in the way of the thing you're trying to communicate. If I'm interviewing, it would be, show me something you've built and tell me about the team you worked with and how you built it. And it gives me a good insight into product mindset, usability, as well as the sort of team structure they're used to working with. Some guys work in different groups. I'm all used to a full stack team where you say, I've got product, design, QA. I've got everyone around me. We can build what we need at the pace we need to. So that, for me, is really insightful, really useful. If I'm actually being interviewed, there are a few questions I normally ask. One of the main ones is, what are your main KPIs and how you're performing against those in the last few months? And that gives me an insight into the culture. And again, are they focused and do they know what they're trying to achieve and how they're going to measure it?